Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Favorite Album of the Year. Today we have entered upon 1976, another fantastic year for new releases by new bands, existing bands, bands on the rise, veteran bands still coming on strong. All sorts of good stuff across all sorts of genres. Today's number one pick was actually very easy for me. If you've been kind of following me on this channel for a while, there was a bunch of you who actually made the right prediction in the comments to yesterday's video in 1975. The tough one was going to be my runner-up because I had like a list of ones that are like right on the periphery that I was like, oh man. And I agonized more about those and picking my runner-up than I did actually for my number one. My number one was, I saw it coming days ahead. I was like, yeah. 76. I know what's going to get picked there, but it was my runner-up that was really difficult in this instance. But let's get back to to my main pick. My number one, my Big Daddy, my favorite from 1976. Like I said, a great year in music, but it's always been about this one for me. This particular album is one of my favorite albums of all time. It features perhaps one of my favorite lineups of any band of all time. Unfortunately, the lineup did not stay together too long, which is a damn shame because, man, they created some magic together. Somewhat, looking back at the time, not really considered a super band or super group because a couple of the guys in the band really not too well known, but they would become much more well known based on what they did here on this album and subsequent things they've done after. Two of the guys certainly were somewhat legendary at the time. One guy was well on his way to becoming legendary, and he would become shortly thereafter. So I'm talking about an album by a band. It's actually their second album. It's by many considered their greatest album. And this is a band that had different lineups almost from album to album in their kind of short career. It's an album that's looked at by many people as being one of the most important hard rock metal albums of all time, certainly a precursor to both power and progressive metal. It features a singer who would go on to do great things, including the first album from this band. It features a guitar player who's beyond legendary, who went from one legendary band to start up his own band, then back to that legendary band again, then back to the other band, then fronting a band with his now wife, doing completely different music. Features a drummer who left us way too soon, but still managed to put together some great work on albums by Jeff Beck and this band, and Michael Schenker Group, and Whitesnake, and Black Sabbath, and Yngwie Malmsteen, and Bedlam, and the list goes on and on and on. A keyboard player who did some great work on this album, but then kind of did a complete about-face doing some solo stuff in another band called Planet P. And, of course, the bass player went on to play in Wild Horses and, most notably, the Dio Band. Of course, I'm talking about Rainbow Rising. Okay? Ronnie James Dio. From Elf onto Rainbow, then Black Sabbath, then of course Dio, and then back to Black Sabbath again. Richie Blackmore from Deep Purple, Rainbow, Blackmore's Night, Tony Carey, Solo, Planet P, and Jimmy Bain, Wild Horses, and Dio, as well as the early lineup of Last in Line. An amazing album that is just near perfection. You got two outstanding epics, a bunch of shorter, energetic tracks. Arguably some of the greatest work by everybody involved on this album. Again, wouldn't be around for too long. They basically did this studio album, they got the live album, and then bloop, Tony Carey's gone, Jimmy Bain's gone. You would have Dio, Powell, and Blackmore continue on for another album. Then Dio would be gone. Cozy would stick around for another album, then Cozy would be gone. And then kind of the music really changed going forward from there. But here, hard rock perfection, epic, mystical, medieval. Can you call it heavy metal? Sure you can. A lot of the seeds of what we now know as power metal, progressive metal kind of came from here. All right, you got Tarot Woman, I don't know. Come on, great stuff. Run with the Wolf. It's only 3 minutes and change, but man, it's snarling. It's fast-paced and heavy. Starstruck. Lady Starstruck. She's nothing but bad luck. Coming after me, yeah. Do You Close Your Eyes? Kind of their one little kind of boogie rocker on the album, which kind of reminds of some of the material from the first album. For me, Do You Close Your Eyes is probably the one somewhat weakish moment on this album, even though it's still a terrific song. It's easily my least favorite from the album. But it provides a little bit of kind of levity before side 2 of the original LP. Of course, The Mighty Stargazer, which, as you all know, one of my favorite songs of all time. It's just so powerful, majestic. Dio at his absolute peak. It still brings me to tears every time I listen to Stargazer. Every time. I try very hard not to listen to Rainbow Rising at the gym anymore because it's emotionally crushing to me. And just Stargazer comes on and I'm just like, I just can't control myself. It's just the flood of emotions, the power, and just the thought that Ronnie's no longer with us, right? And then, of course, Light in the Black. Both of those songs featuring some tremendous drumming from Cozy Powell. Some of his best drumming ever on any recorded work, in my opinion. And he would go on to do some great things, the Slide It In album. He's fantastic on that. The second Michael Schenker Group album, fantastic. He plays some great drums on those Black Sabbath albums in the mid-late 80s. But something about here, with the rest of these guys, magic. Produced by none other than Martin Birch. Just a fantastic, fantastic album. Great songwriting, great playing. Love the cover. Love everything about it. Just one of my favorite albums of all time, and certainly, without a doubt, my favorite album of 1976. Runner-up, you might ask. Okay, well, after I kind of weeded through a lot of them, and there's some great ones. Some great ones. I came down to 2. One of them is one of the greatest debuts of all time. And I love it. And it's like one of those albums the songs have been overplayed to death over the years, but I'm still not sick of it. It's a very ahead of its time album. Amazing vocal harmonies and hooks. The guitar work was light years ahead of stuff you were hearing out there. Not just from the playing, but the way the riffs were produced. Definitely the sounds of the guitars, right? Something totally different. Lead guitars are stellar. The vocals are off the charts good. And the other album is by a band that had a handful of releases before, but that were stellar. But all of a sudden, boom, they hit their absolute peak. And it's my favorite album by them, among a lot of favorites. And it's probably the first real, true American progressive rock success story from a sales perspective and chart perspective and all that kind of thing. So in the end, I had to, again, it came down to which one was I more into at the time when I was a youngster. It's definitely the one, although I loved the other one at the time too. I definitely think I've been into the other one a little bit more in the second half of my life, but I still really, really am moved by the other one. So it came down to, okay, well, which one kind of, for me anyway, within my brain, charted higher for me over the course of my entire life. And one just nicked out the other. My runner-up is the self-titled Boston debut, just beating out Kansas Leftoverture. And it really pains me to have Leftoverture sitting in number 3 there. But, there's something about this album. It's perfection, right? More Than a Feeling, Peace of Mind, which is actually my favorite song on the album. Foreplay a Long Time, incredible. Rock and Roll Band, Smokin', Hitch a Ride, Something About You, Let Me Take You Home Tonight. Man, top to bottom, great stuff. You got some hard rock and boogie, you got heavy rock, you got some nice kind of pop music with a little bit of folky tones on it. You got some rip-roaring, snarling boogie, man, all sorts of great shit on this album. But, in the end, it's not going to beat Rainbow Rising. As much as I love this, and I do, this is just extra special for me. So there you have my pick and my runner-up for 1976. I'm already starting to spin the wheels for 1977, which is coming up tomorrow, and then we got 78, and it just doesn't get any easier, guys. I think for me, the early, like 69 through like 70, up to 75, it was more about a staggering amount of great albums. Going forward, it's more about really, really special albums, as opposed to the just staggering amount. There's so many to choose from. Now it's about, you get like 3, 4, 5 that are just like, oh my God, those are so special to me. I love them so much. How do I pick between one of them? That's, for me, I think what I'm going to be in store for going forward, and all of you guys as well. As opposed to, you got 50 that I can't pick from this group of 50. Now it's like, wow, here's 5 of them. And they mean so much to me. How do I make this decision, right? So there you have it. This is on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. Coming up momentarily, you've got my t-shirt collection. Visit with my t-shirt collection, the T-Shirt Den here at the Pardo Abode. I believe that is number 4 of an eventual 5-part series. Hopefully going to be shooting number 5 today or over the weekend. And that'll be the end of that. So all the metal stuff is coming at the end. The metal and the guitar players and some odds and ends coming at the end. But I think you got, in part 4, I think you have, where did I leave off? I think I left off. So I think it'll be S. I think it's S through Z, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, and then the last part will be all my odds and sods of metal and various things of that nature. So that'll be coming. So also, we've got coming up, hopefully today, ranking the studio albums of Soft Machine, ranking the studio albums of Government Mule, and then probably over the weekend, because by popular demand, ranking the albums of the Kinks, as well as ranking the albums of Exodus with Brian Slagle and Steve Keeler and another special guest. So that's coming tomorrow. So all sorts of stuff cooking this weekend. You don't want to miss any of it. So, and of course, tomorrow, 1977. All right. We'll see you then. Take care. Have a good one. And be safe. Bye-bye.